So 2012 was a pretty spectacular year. It was one of those years where just we were at the right place at the right time. Great assignments, and then saw some really good fire behavior. Got ordered to the Bridger Teton in Wyoming on the Fontanelle fire as it was just kind of getting out of initial attack. You know, they knew at some point they were going to need some help, and we showed up at the right time. It was the first day of red flags, and it was in Lodgepole where, you know, they were starting to get some of that bug kill. And so saw some real extreme fire behavior on that fire from the moment we got there, when it was probably, I don't know, less than 100 acres. And watched it make some pretty impressive runs, and spent the first week there real long, hard shifts with pretty hairy burnouts, like overslung along roads where the trees, you can feel, even a single tree torch, really feel these trees just exploding with power. And, you know, really kind of, it gets you on the edge, and the hairs stand up, and knowing that you have to have everything dialed and know where everyone's at any given time. And it finally got to a point in those long days and really extended. You know, it was getting hard to get out of the sleeping bag, you know, the mornings like day 7, and we bounced to another division, and there was a piece of the fire we hadn't seen, and we pulled up and knew it was more or less kind of the direction that the fire had been heading for the last week. And pull up to this area, and there's these really nice cabins that, you know, have probably been passed down in generations, and could see they had been working for probably a few days, setting up pumps and getting things in place for structure protection. And how they were going to go about it, they didn't know, and they were calling us in there to take a look, knowing that the fire potentially that day was going to get to that point. And they had a lookout up between us and the fire, kind of, yeah, it's down in the drainage, getting ready to run up this side, and that's all it's going to take to get to these cabins. And so the plan was, you know, it's we were going to go into more of a point source protection mode. You know, not worry, even though there was a pretty good solid road behind us, knowing how this fire had been moving through the crowns of these trees every day, that we probably weren't going to hold the road, but we were going to do what we could to save those cabins. Like I said, probably a dozen of them or so, all with outbuildings and coops and everything else. So we were going to try to do it on our terms, try to do a burnout around these cabins before the fire got there, knowing that we probably are going to lose it behind where we can chase it later on. And so we, as quickly as we could, started getting familiar with what was in place, the pumps, the crews that they had there to support us. And we set up as quickly as we could, and by the time everything was in place, of course, it's 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and had a quick briefing with the crew and got in a place to start burning out around these cabins. And boy, I wasn't lighting that day. I was a squad leader, of course, trying to get people in the right place, extending, and then kind of liaison with the Type 2 crews, spraying water on the cabins. And this fire, by the time we lit our backburn and the main fire came, they came together right on the top of this ridge. And it was the most impressive, explosive fire behavior. I mean, you know, 300-foot flame lengths, a wall of this fire up in green, dead trees, it didn't matter. And we had a lookout actually across behind us on the next ridge behind us. You know, he's taking photos of this thing, and it's just something you can't really grasp or believe until you've seen it, how much fire there was, and how, you know, we had a really green, big open field. We were all comfortable, but just to be that close to that impressive a fire was something I had never seen before. And definitely looking back now, you know, I'm not sure I'll ever see that kind of fire again. And it was in timber, kind of that area ignition, where just it wasn't a matter of fire kind of carrying through to the next and torching. It was just, once everything decided to go, the whole slope went at once, and you could feel it, you could hear it. It was really intense. And of course, you know, we never intentionally, when we can, not, you know, slick off a hillside during a burnout on a wildfire. Whatever we can do to try to bring it down. Well, there was none of that on this fire. We had to just get it done the quickest, safest way possible. And of course, you know, that whole slope was just sticks standing, black sticks standing. It took just hours until it was just kind of a little bit of smoke coming out of there because it burned so hot and fast. And you know, so kind of felt bad that it looked like it did after it was all said and done. But they were so grateful that we saved every cabin. And in fact, you know, there was kind of people talking, of course, amongst themselves. You know, what are the odds of all of them? How many of these 10 or 12 are going to make it? You know, half? All of them? None of them? You know, no one really knew what was going to happen. And I was as optimistic as I feel like I am. I really didn't have a good feeling we were going to save them all. And sure enough, after it was all said and done, every cabin was still standing, every outbuilding, the whole deal. It was a great feeling for the crew. We really felt accomplished after that was all done. And you know, they kind of gave us a pat on the back, the team did, after it was all done, with a little certificate and all this. So that was really neat to see that come together. And the big thing there was just seeing that impressive a fire was pretty incredible. So